Welcome back. Texas Democrats walked out to block a redistricting plan pushed by Donald Trump and backed by the state's Republican leadership. But leaving the state hasn't been cheap. Representative Wu says he and about 50 of his colleagues have been relying on support from the Democratic caucus to cover hotel bills, and now they're asking the public for help. With no end in sight, this walkout could last weeks, maybe even months. They're counting on small dollar donations and support from Beto O'Rourke's group, powered by people, to stay in the fight. But Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton is now investigating Beto's group, accusing them of bribery. Beto calls it a political stunt, saying it's just more fuel for supporters to dig in and keep the momentum going.
They're trying to stop the consolidation of authoritarian power in America as Trump and Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton and the Republicans in Texas, thick as thieves, try to steal these 5 seats in Texas.
Donald Trump said the FBI may have to get involved with helping Texas Republicans arrest Democrats who left the state to block a plan to redraw electoral boundaries.
Asking for your help to force Democrats back to the state and hold them accountable. Do you want the federal government and the FBI to help locate and arrest these Texas Democrats who have left the state?
Well, I think they've abandoned the state. Nobody's seen anything like it, even though they've done it twice before. And in a certain way, it almost looks like they've abandoned the state. It looks very bad. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Should the FBI get involved? Should the FBI get involved?
Well, they may have to. They may have to. No, I know they want them back. Not only the Attorney General, the governor wants them back. If you look, I mean, the governor of Texas is demanding they come back. So a lot of people are demanding they come back. You can't just sit it out. You have to go back. You have to fight it out. That's what elections are all about. Yeah, please.
Thank you so much, President.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott is now targeting Democratic State Representative Gene Wu, threatening to have him removed from office for refusing to return to Texas. Wu, who joined fellow Democrats in fleeing the state to block a Trump-backed redistricting plan, says he is standing firm.
This should be reflected here. And then you have Indiana Republican Governor Mike Braun saying this morning, talking a little bit about redistricting ahead of his meeting with Vice President J.D. Vance. Let's listen to that.
Here in Indiana, we've become more Republican over time. And these maps probably need to be looked at anyway. I'm going to be listening to J.D. today and our 2 leaders of the legislature as well. And we're going to have that discussion.
What do you say to that?
I would say that this is very dangerous, that everything we're doing right now smacks of the Cold War. And what we're saying, what we're talking about is launching nukes at each other. And ultimately, it will be the American people who are hurt. Because if this happens at every time we change presidents, every time parties take power, this will never end. Democrats have no choice but to respond to this in the same way. If you launch missiles at us, we have to launch missiles at you, and it will never end. All it will end is our country in ruin. And what people need to do now is speak up and tell everyone to stop it. The Democratic states, the blue states, have said we would only do this if they fired first. And what everyone needs to tell their legislators, tell their leaders, is everyone needs to stop. If you believe in a country that still values hard work and fair play and following the rules, like, you have to stand up and speak up for it now. Not whoever wins this one time, you get to rewrite all the rules whenever you want. That's not the American way. That's not the way we should work. And if we don't fight against that now, once this happens, that's the end of our democracy. That's the end of our republic.
Now, Greg, I am hearing, every time I see these conversations going, I'm hearing so much historical references, weapons of mass destruction being employed, war, we're going to war, people bring up dictatorships and all of these different things. When you're hearing what's going on with this battle with the representatives and the historical context that keep being brought up, people are talking about mutually assured destruction and all of these war references. What are your thoughts as it relates to that?
Probably the same as yours. Probably the same as yours, Doc. Omakongo, same as yours, the same as we've been saying all along. At the end of the day, Representative Wu's not wrong. It's the end. You'll notice that I don't have a whole lot of tears to shed about that. This is a cold civil war. We've been saying it all along. It's heating up. There's absolutely nothing surprising here. These are white nationalists. This is their death rattle. It's the end of the white republic. Now, what will replace it remains to be seen. We know specifically in this context that the next step will be the federal courts. The question will become whether or not the maps as they exist now will be left in place while this works its way through the courts. I expect that a federal district court would probably issue an injunction. The racist state of Texas is in the increasingly racist and white nationalist Fifth Judicial Circuit, which that circuit court might overturn or release that stay, remove that stay, and then it'll be on the rocket docket to the increasingly white nationalist U.S. Supreme Court. And if past this prelude, they're going to lay down and roll over and show their collective belly to Donald Trump, so he'd allow him to scratch their belly, and then that would leave Ketanji Onika Brown Jackson to dissent after they issue an opinion from the rocket docket to lift that injunction. But that remains to be seen. But he's not wrong. When he says the end of our democracy, it was never a democracy, sir. This was always a white republic, and he's absolutely right. And this is why, as principled and as absolutely accurate as Representative Simmons' answer to my question was, it is also not an answer at all. White nationalists are dying, and this is their dying fight. You don't beat their dying fight by trying to remind their voters that they're harming themselves. Suicide is part of white nationalist illogic. You've got to break their political backs. And that means Illinois, that means California, that means New York, that means everywhere else to assure mutually assured destruction. Then we build something else or not.
That's deep. That is so profound in what you're saying. And Reese, I'm hearing all of these conversations about, we need Democrats to fight back. We need Democrats to fight back. And now we're seeing in some states with Pritzker and in California and New York, people are talking about fighting back. But now when I see some of these governors and other Democratic politicians on these news stations, it seems like the media is putting pressure on them. Are you doing the right thing? Is this something you should be doing? Are you any better than the Republicans by doing that? And my response was, I thought this is what people wanted. How do you see it?
Well, here's the thing. Democrats have righteousness on their side. It's indisputable that what they're doing is the right thing. The problem is that this country does not vote based on righteousness. This country votes on self-preservation and that alone. And so that's why the whole idea of trying to appeal to people's desire to hold on to democracy and saying this isn't who we are, it's exactly who the fuck we are. Okay? This country has always been about holding on to power and maintaining it. Republicans have just taken it a little bit more seriously than Democrats have. And so what Democrats really should be focusing on is explaining to people that this is not about saving democracy. This is about Republicans trying to be able to rule with impunity. The reason why Republicans are doing this right now is because their policies are shit. It's because the big, beautiful bill is going to make more people homeless, is going to strip tens of millions of people from their health care, and they're going to undo every single investment. As Representative Simmons said, the government is about investment in the American people and divert all of the money from the federal government to the pockets of the wealthy. So when Democrats get real about what really animates and motivates the American people, maybe they can make some headway. They're not going to ever be able to get MAGA to switch, but they can maybe get some of those 89 million sorry ass motherfuckers who did not vote. Like, this was the biggest threat in Donald Trump and Project 2025 to our self-preservation, to our damn planet when it comes to climate change. If you bring that in there, then maybe we could start talking. But this whole talk about democracy is the same exact reason why we lost in 2024. People do not care about preserving democracy. They care about what impacts them and them alone.
I hear that. I received that for real. Nola, they talk so much about we have laws and we have a nation of laws, but what Trump has revealed to us is that we don't really have laws when it comes to certain things. We have norms. For example, people talking about the FBI actually being used to go and get these folks in tech who are in New York or Massachusetts or California. Some people say that's not what the FBI is supposed to be doing, but Donald Trump is saying, well, we might have to do that. How do you see this breaking down from a national security perspective in terms of what the FBI might actually be doing? Maybe it wouldn't have happened under Christopher Wray, but with a Cash Patel, I feel like anything's possible. I think you're muted.
I am. Oh God, thank God it's you and not Roland.
Don't worry. I done seen those videos too. We're good.
Cuss out, Nola.
Oh Lord. So there, from a national security perspective, let me back up a little bit. A lot of Americans don't realize that the FBI is under the DOJ. Mm-hmm. Now we are talking about agencies that are perceived to act independently. But any person, like when you are appointed, when you are part of the cabinet, there is the idea that you work at the pleasure, you serve at the pleasure of the president, which is a confusing sentiment in and of itself. Because in one instance, it's as if the president is the monarch and you work at the pleasure to please the whims of that president. While an agency like the FBI and a Department of Justice, they claim independence. So one of the things that I have been talking about for years is we need to clarify this very blurry line between norms and laws. And what Trump and his ilk has done effectively is find a loophole everywhere, because there are norms everywhere, because the way that so much of this was perceived was that you are operating with folks who are moral. You are operating with folks who have decorum, who will operate within statesmanship. None of that applies to them. Especially with Greg is saying, people need to understand this is a fight for certain white folks' soul in this country, that they believe that by any means necessary, they need to preserve their country. It has nothing to do with politics. And Democrats, we are largely approaching this problem as if it is still a matter of politics. They have a war-like frame of mind, and we haven't gotten there yet. So from a national security perspective, yes, the FBI is an independent agency that is under the Department of Justice, and the Department of Justice is supposed to act as an independent agency. However, you still serve at the pleasure of the president. So that's a lot of confusing, it's a lot of confusing ideas that the American public are just not interested in. They want to know very plainly, is this against the law? Yes or no? They don't want to hear about the gray areas. They don't want to hear all the rhetoric. And no one can speak to the American public and tell them one way or the other. And the result of that is apathy, and you tap out.
Wow. I hear you. Greg, I want to come back to this fundraising part, because when the George Clooney's and all the worlds were kicking Biden out of the race and all of that other type of stuff, they were talking about fundraising and this, and then Kamala came in and all of this money was raised. But now when I see something that's actually happening with the people, I mean, these representatives that we just had, Simmons and Manuel, like these different parts of Texas, the representation, I don't see Hollywood and all of the people who are saying we need to do this to save democracy. I don't see the millions of dollars coming in. I'm hearing things about donations on the ground. Is this just another way that this idea of what the Democratic Party is supposed to be about has actually been exposed?
Man, that's a heavy question, brother. I would say that for the high-profile donors and the political operatives, it's really about the political theater of the national elections. These are not, in terms of the celebrities, they are not, should I put this, they don't really know much about politics. They're not dealing with state and local politics.
Yeah.
The United States isn't a nation. It's a country with a lot of different nations in it, a lot of different polities in it. The white nationalists have tapped into the visceral glue that holds together the criminal enterprise settler state called United States of America, and that's white nationalism. That operates at the state, local, and federal level. To respond to it at a national level is easy. It's convenient. You raise money. You imagine yourself an avatar fighting a larger battle. But America doesn't have a soul because it's not an entity. It's not a nation. The thing that holds America together is white nationalism. And they're not willing to get in the trenches and fight that white nationalism tooth and nail at the local level. I think where the two things converge potentially at the federal level and maybe the state level and local level would be with those who are anchored in the places where the white nationalists are trying to create the most chaos. So in this instance, and I'm not saying anything new, but I will use this name. It wouldn't be a George Clooney from California trying to battle this. It would be a Beyonce Knowles Carter in Texas. And that's not going to happen. Because at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, what is your vision for the society you want to live in, and where are you investing your time and energy to make that vision real? It's a lot easier for the Beyoncés and the Jay-Z's to donate money or to cape for Kamala Harris at the national level. When it comes down to a fight like this, if Cowboy Carter got in off the sideline and said, why y'all chopping my city up like this and coming through the third ward and trying to destroy these seats, I'm dumping everything I have and carpet bombing you politically on that. Oh, I'd like to see that. And maybe to come to that one day, but I have no real faith that it will, because I understand the United States of America, and it's coming apart at the seams because it was inevitable.
Wow. So Reese, if what Greg is saying is true, the Megans, the Beyoncés, may not get off the sideline.
Exactly.
What happens here? I mean, these individuals are leaving their homes. This week was the first day of school for some of these representatives' children in Texas. I remember seeing a story about Representative Ramos, who has a daughter with a medical condition. If they're trying to do this off of small donations, and this is supposed to possibly lasting weeks, are you optimistic about what's going to happen here? Are they delaying the inevitable? Because one thing I noticed about Trump, as crazy as everybody says he is and all of the deranged things that he does, one thing is he is very patient. He talks like he's always in a rush, but he's very patient about waiting things out. And it feels like this is something he feels very comfortable that they can wait out. But can the Democrats, can they afford to do the same if it continues to go like this? Do the big names need to step up, or are we just on our own here?
Well, I wouldn't say that Donald Trump is patient. I would say that Republicans are relentless. And they will keep at it and keep at it and keep at it, whereas Democrats will, pack their bags and go home and be like, oh, well, I don't know. Well, we tried. Better luck next time. Better luck in 4 years. And so that's the big difference. And then, to Dr. Carr's point, we have celebrities and Democratic donors who they show up for moments. Whereas on the Republicans, they invest in movements. And movements aren't always about the splashy moments that you have. They aren't always about, for instance, when we reorganized around viral headlines or around national elections. They will pick a Charlie Kirk who was a high school kid and dump millions of dollars into him and build an empire around that. And Democrats and people of conscience, as I like to say, just don't have the patience. They don't have the willingness to invest in movements in the same way. Then you have the purity politics of it all. Then you have, we can't take PAC money. You got to have small dollar donuts. Can I get $5? Can I get $5? And people ain't got $5 right now. The economy is tanking. 300,000 Black women have lost their jobs. And so we're not well primed for this moment. Republicans have Project 2025. They've been playing the long game. They did the long game on Roe v. Wade. They're doing the long game on the Voting Rights Act, the long game on Civil Rights Act. And we are constantly fucking winging it with hardly any resources, trying to play catch up, trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. And so I don't want to say anything to undercut or diminish the power and impactfulness of what these Texas Democrats are doing. But what I will say is that Democrats cannot put all their eggs in these sorts of tactics and this kind of basket. Democrats need to get real about the billions of dollars it's going to take and the decades it's going to take starting yesterday to undo all this. And they need to start getting real about the fact that a lot of people in this country don't give a damn about the laws versus the norms. Donald Trump was reelected with 34 felony convictions and 80-something indictments. The law is beside the point when people support what you're doing. And I know it's not everybody, but unfortunately, the plurality and the votes that you need are for the white nationalists, or for whiteness, for carnage and destruction. And other people won't get off their ass and get in the ball game. So I'm just saying, what are we doing, Democrats? It can't just be this. It can't just be having individuals sacrifice their livelihoods, hide out in hotels, which I applaud them for. There has to be a bigger, more comprehensive and well-invested plan to counteract what Republicans are up to.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that. We talk about Beto O'Rourke is funding, his PAC is funding. I don't hear much from the Stopping Oligarchy tour with Bernie Sanders. I'm not hearing much from the DNC as relates to this fundraising as well. And so I think you bring up some really good points that we have to continue to call out the leaders, or the so-called leaders at the top, in order for us to make this change.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.